everyone, and welcome back to Project Soch. In the last episode, we were in conversation with Spike and Wakar, and that's going to continue now as well. The motivation behind creating this series was to be able to see if the fact that we're brought up in extremely different cultures or in different households really does affect the way we see things, the way we view the world. So I've been asking both of them a set of questions on as wide a range of topics as I can think of. And the idea is that through their responses, we'd hopefully be able to get a glimpse into how their different upbringings will have affected their opinions. If that sounds like something that interests you, keep on watching.
Um, hmm. Marriage is a difficult one for me. My family,
Can't tie this one down, can we?
uh, my family has a complicated understanding of a pretty fundamental and old uh, cohabitation agreement. So the idea that you need to tie yourself to one person and that's the only way you can love somebody is not what I have been shown.
I mean, if you convert, you can have four.
Yeah, it's not so much I want to be a polygamist.
Okay,
It's more that love is a spectrum, and neither of it, I love you and I love you, and my love for you doesn't really impact my love for you. So, and that's difficult for a lot of people because it definitely leaves you vulnerable, and emotional intelligence and that kind of conversation is not something that we're taught. So you said in terms of other things besides marriage, can you just remind me? Apologies.
It's a high school, university.
Oh,
Get a
the
job.
normal path. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's there for a reason. I mean, there's definitely laws to encourage education for that purpose. Yeah. So for me, you should definitely achieve higher education, regardless.
I mean, I'm a traditionalist in some senses.
Mm.
So I think it's rather important. Unless you're doing something which you are very good at and you make a huge impact, then that's fine. But if you're just gonna waste your life trying to be a revolutionary failure, then probably not a good idea.
Do you think the marriage part is important if you're child rearing though? Like, I don't think it's necessarily necessary if you don't have children. That stability is important for the upbringing of a child, not
Yeah.
having, but
Marriage is important. Children are an important part of life. I think I agree with the stability. It's it's basically the impact, right? So the lasting impact you can leave are also your children. Um, but yeah, I do agree that I think stability is very important before you sort of plan to have children, because many a times especially in my part of the world, people are just married off to each other, and they don't quite like each other or don't quite know each other in some circumstances. And they have children within 9 months of marriage, and I think then it's a bit difficult for the child to grow up in an unstable home. They tend to have mental health issues later on. So I think it's important to have a level of understanding with your partner and a level of stability before you bring a new life into this world.
um,
What is your role as a man in the society, Spike?
yeah, my personal role, gosh,
Let's take this question piecemeal.
I know.
Do you identify as a man?
Yes.
Okay. Do you think you have a purpose in this society?
As a man, no. I think the society is male oriented, so I don't need to make a purpose of it specifically as a man because I'm already doing that because society is for men.
Yeah.
Um, I I don't know. Maybe as my duty as a man is to balance out that, like make it a little bit more less male oriented. Um,
Fuck gender roles.
yeah. There's a bit of that, but it's I don't know. Like it's unfortunately not something that I've really considered because it's not something that I'm aware of. Like
That you're a man.
no, that there's like a role that I have to portray.
Okay.
I guess the only one that really comes to mind is the breadwinner in a family.
Yeah. I
And-
think as a man, so I'm a proponent of gender equality, obviously.
Mm.
No qualms about that. I think as a man, the one role that we can play, and especially you as a white man, stating the obvious, the one role that I think you and I could play is using our privilege, as you mentioned, to change stuff. So I think if we don't talk about women empowerment as a man, then
It won't happen,
Exactly.
unfortunately.
So it is also our, women have to break that glass ceiling, but it is also us who have to stomp on that ceiling so that they can be let through.
Because
That sounds
unfortunately,
wrong, not
let me
let through, but
let's clarify. Let's clarify that the feminist movement is not a problem because of women. The problem is men. So ultimately, that movement is to convince men that there is a problem. So it will ultimately only have the impact that it is seeking when it effectively changes the minds of people like us. So we're not saying that we are like the demographic that needs to do that. We are saying that unfortunately women have to spend their entire lives convincing dumbasses that look like us that they should be countered. I mean, not countered. Oh, got counted. I think in terms of financial independence, which is what we talked about, a metric of success.
Yeah.
I think that is extremely important, and independence in relationships is something that I feel some people view as a detriment to the relationship in terms of marriage. I see a lot of people that are very dependent on each other for success, and that's fine, but I don't think that's always healthy. So being a breadwinner is obviously important, and whoever does that is fantastic in terms of enabling things for your children and for the relationship. But as a man, I don't think it's necessary that they have to win it unless they really want to.
I think this particular question is one that I'd really want to address, especially for the Muslim population that's looking that's watching this video, because most of the time in our part of the world it's set gender roles that the man is the breadwinner and the wife has to stay home. I think people tend to forget that the last prophet, peace be upon him, he was dependent on his wife while he was doing the religious work, and she was the main breadwinner. She was also the person who actually hired him before they were married. So I think people tend to forget that sometimes, and then they tend to keep the women locked up in the house and not letting them to go out and sort of be financially independent. I think it's also it sort of speaks about the mentality of the people, because I think there's a group on Facebook which I will not name for my own safety. Which sort of, I think some people ask, do you feel comfortable asking your wife for to contribute in household expenses? I think some people say, oh no, if your wife is independent, then she won't respect you, and it will be a equal relationship, which is a bad start. I think that's sort of a very ignorant belief, and I think we need to, I think, and the only way that we can actually get rid of this thinking is education. I
Mm.
mean, so yes, that was my sort of passionate answer
Mm.
to this one.
Finally. Yeah. My sister is quite a lot younger than me. She's 7 years younger. And my parents were different people in that span of time. My mom had my sister when she was 40, which meant she was at a different time in her life in terms of career, in terms of like physically, and what she learned as rearing me. Um,
That must be tough.
yeah, I mean, like I was definitely a problem child in the later years. My sister was definitely a problem child in the earlier years. So my mom had a hard swing at it, like most moms. Um, do I think we're very different? Yeah. And that does have to do with the child rearing, but I also think it's the world that my sister grew up in. She grew up in a Obama era United States, where I grew up in a Bush era United States, and those seem maybe not important to a lot of people who aren't aware, but there was a huge cultural shift in that time period. I mean, technology has rapidly increased. I don't understand TikTok, and I'm okay not understanding TikTok. I remember when there was static on the television. My sister can pull a television like in her bathroom. It's just like nuts the amount of access, and it means that she's a lot quicker on the uptick where I'm less so, and that can create some friction between us. But ultimately, learning about her and learning about me, I hope for her, is part of the love that we share between us.
Yeah, so I mean, again, I'm not a perfect representation of the stereotype, so I will say no. There was not much difference in the way that myself and my sister were brought up.
Mm.
Yes, different in the sense that we are different people. So my sister was not a problem child, whereas I am was, and my brother is. So she was more of a respite period of respite for my mother. But I think not really. I mean, she's not. In terms of education, in terms of making choices of what to study, where to study, there was nothing stopping her. I think she's gotten into some universities in the UK, and she's where she wants to do biomed. But then she also wants to keep her option of doing medicine open. So there's no, the stereotype of women should become doctors. It's basically what she wanted to do. So I mean, she can go into research, but whatnot. So not much. No, I mean, I think also when you talked about the era that we grew up in.
Yeah.
So I think when I was about in 2008, how old was I? 4 plus 8, 12. Quick maths. Sorry, it was 2008, 2009.
Man's hot.
Yeah. was we were troubling times in Karachi because there's a lot of terrorism going on at that time, and I think that sort of meant there was more apprehension on sending kids outside without any supervision. And this is probably interesting to know, but I'm now turning 24, but I've never in Pakistan taken the car out myself without a driver or a guard or anyone else. So,
It's unfortunate, man.
it's actually very nice because I don't have to drive in the traffic, nor do I have to park. So I actually do very much like it. I know it's an unpopular opinion because many people my age or even 16 were out and about with their cars. But that also meant that, like a lot of Pakistani men, I did not have to do the chores of going out and bringing stuff and buying stuff. So I absolutely love that.
Your mom said you were lazy? Is that what?
I am lazy. I still am.
Starting to see that.
Yeah. She's trying to catch us out,
I
isn't
know,
she?
right? This is
Yeah.
a trap. We've already kind of failed
Yeah.
once, guys. I promise. We are genuine. It's
Good
not
guys.
edited.
We're good guys.
Okay.
We have a lot
role-
of best friends who are females.
Oh God! Please stop. The role. Well, I don't think there is necessarily a role, bar the biological one, which is not within people's control for most of human history. We're seeing that change, and maybe that role will also kind of lose its meaning. But yeah, I don't know, like being a good mom, I guess, or
Yeah.
and I don't really. That's more being about being a good parent.
Yeah.
It's not really specific to being a mom. You know.
I think I would agree with that. I think the major role
Mm,
in a family system where there are children.
mm,
Not every woman is a mom, so I need to
True.
make that clear before I get into trouble. Is obviously, I mean, also speaking from a religious aspect, because I do, go back to those principles. I think a mother and a child's bond is very close, and I think a mother has a lot to do in the bringing up of her child. So I think, and in most cases, it's a closer bond than the father, just a naturally closer bond than the father. So I think that's sort of a very important role. And other than that, I think it's she is what makes a house a home at times. Or else, because given how lazy men are at times, they will not. No, I mean, we wouldn't have this tablecloth or a couple of flowers lying down there. We'd have dirty socks everywhere.
But don't you think that's because of generations of similar thinking? So like my mom is definitely the breadwinner, and she was not at the house often, and it was my dad who really was there because he's a freelancer, so he works from home, and I know
We're all working from home now.
yeah. But I know that made me much more similar to my father in a lot of the appreciations that we have in our lives. So for music is a huge portion for my sister and I, and we definitely get that from my father. And that is something I feel like my mother has expectations, not from with us, but from her feeling that she's not fulfilled that role as a mom, and yet she has done everything that might be expected of her if she was a man. So
I think perhaps you are right. I think the only reason that we are coming with different points of views are because you were brought up by your father being at home, and I was brought up with my mother being at home. So
Yeah.
I think maybe that is sort of one of the points to take from this video. Project Search.
yeah, like
What relationship does Pence love Trump?
I no.
Does
Pence
Does Imran Khan love Murad Saeed? Who knows?
Pence is a weird guy. I mean, fun fact for you: in the part of the United States where we're from, old Midwesterners call their wives moms, and that's
America.
there's nothing more to read into that, but there might be something more to read into that, if you know what I mean.
I think if Freud was alive,
Oh yeah, he'd do a few lines and tell us a whole bunch
Yeah.
of his opinions on that. Yeah,
that guy was crazy.
for sure, for sure. I imagine he's pretty good at a party, you know.
But or boring, I don't know.
Yeah, I think love is important if that is a relationship that you want to flourish, right? I talked earlier about how love is a spectrum. Doesn't have to be romantic. However, romantic love with your friends is something that I'm all for if it's healthy.
What about your fiance's sister?
I think there's a limit. That might be one. But I'm not here to judge. It's not my place.
I mean, you are doing law, so technically, maybe one day.
Yeah, yeah, I guess that's a point. But I don't think you can have any relationship without love. Really, that's healthy. I think if you don't have love and you call it a relationship, it's likely a business relationship or a negative relationship. So yeah, love's pretty important.
Yes, it is. That's it. That's all I have to say.
Yeah. We love you.
Yeah? I love you. You're gonna talk about Swedish, Jewish.
Yeah, no, I'm not that kind of guy with the 23andMe results. My mom took it and refuses to tell me what's going on. So there's definitely some weird shit. Mom, reveal the documents, please.
Maybe that could be the next video.
Honestly.
Spike's mom's DNA.
Yeah. Spike's adopted.
Wouldn't surprise me.
With that name, yeah,
But
definitely wanted a dog.
But then
so-
again, if they had an option, why did they choose you?
Because I was a beautiful angel, a cherub with golden curls.
An Aryan.
Yeah, I guess maybe they picked me because they thought I'd look enough like them that I wouldn't ask questions. But
Right.
joke's on you, Mom. We're looking for those documents. Reveal them. Okay, so my culture and heritage. Yeah, I got an amalgamation of two major ones. One being British and the other being American. I'd like to specify Chicagoan. And that definitely had an impact on me, for sure. I hate soccer. The word is it's football. So small things like that. My usage of language is definitely more British. My appreciation for tea, which I think we share.
Warm tea. I don't know. You like warm tea?
Maybe that's my iced tea American side. I don't know. But small things like that definitely shaped my culture. I also have a portion of my upbringing that was Hispanic from the neighborhood and the people in my life. And for me, I'm so grateful for the food. Oh my gosh, hot sauce is actually and the culture as well, like music. I was fortunate enough to go to Cuba because we have the Spanish side of my family, and that lasts with me for like ever. The history there and knowing about things other than.
And that also sort of helps you build a rapport with Latin people.
Yeah, bridges,
yeah.
I guess.
I think that's a very good thing to have. My culture, so I am born in Karachi, but my grandparents came from India. I think three of them were from Delhi, one from Lucknow. So majorly the UP, Urdu-speaking part of India. I think being in Karachi, it's multicultural. So I think when people came from across the border, they sort of brought that part of their life with them. So you'll find people who migrate from different places still keep on to the traditions. I think there's just nuances in different dialect of language, different ways of saying stuff, different food. And Delhi's food is quite awesome, by the way. So I think that has a big part of your, upbringing.
Yeah, I think we might also be hungry and we're fading. Hence the mentioning of food. So apologies.
I do demand the person who's filming us that he or she should feed us. The whole production team, please feed us.
No, we've been here for 24 hours.
Yeah, and two cups of chai will not do it.
We demand 3. 3 cups of chai.
And I'm blinking twice. Just to the
Mom, I love you.
This has been a long day. I've got work to go back to.
Yeah.
Are we done yet?
So culturally, we share some sarcasm from our British roots, which might have been forced upon
I
us.
did not have any
And-
British roots.
Well,
Or maybe I did.
Yeah,
This is a topic which I shall not discuss on camera. I'll get disowned by my family.
So I hope you guys really enjoyed that video. Me personally, I found it really heartwarming that despite the fact that these two guys have grown up in such completely different circumstances and are obviously of different races and different cultures, they tend to agree on quite a few of what at least I and I think most people would consider the bigger aspects of life. And despite the fact that this is just sort of a fun, casual way of looking at it, I hope this does make you think that maybe the divides of race and culture are given a lot more importance than they should be, because it is possible that maybe we're not so different after all. As always, for questions, comments, concerns, all our socials are at Project Soch. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to see more from us. Drop a comment below to tell us what you thought of the video and suggestions on what you think we should tackle next. Take care of yourselves and those around you, stay happy, and I'll see you next time. Bye!